welcome back to the channel. And I want to kind of firstly start with saying thank you ever so much to everyone that subscribes. We checked the other day and there was 135 subscribers, which I was blown away with actually. So really grateful for those of you who do kind of come back and subscribe. I think we regularly have about 300 or 400 people visit the videos, which still blows my mind. I never really got into this to, you know, for the number of subscribers or to monetize all that kind of stuff. I did it because I enjoy doing this kind of thing. But that being said, I'm incredibly grateful for those of you who subscribe, so thank you ever so much. If you are enjoying these sorts of videos, then please do consider subscribing as well. My boys are absolutely over the moon that we've got 135 subscribers, so thank you for a start. Second thing is, we are just a single day or maybe 2 days away from the big trip that we've been planning for quite some time. So we are planning on taking Frank all the way up to the Shetlands to visit some friends who've got some property up there. So we're making a bit of a road trip of it. It's going to take around about 10 days. We are going to be going from here, so we're based in Wiltshire, so we're going to be driving up from Wiltshire all the way up to Windermere in the Lake District. And we're going to stop off at Blackpool on the way because none of us have been to Blackpool before, so we're going to stop there at the Pleasure Beach and just have a look around for lunch. Then up to Windermere, where we're staying the first night. Then from Windermere we're driving up to Glencoe in Scotland, which will be another fair drive, but we're going to go through the Lake District and all the way up to Scotland, which is just some amazing picturesque driving. From Glencoe, the following day we'll be then going all the way across to Aberdeen via the lochs, going via Loch Ness. And Aberdeen that evening we then get the North Link ferry all the way up to the Shetlands, to Lerwick. So then when we're in Lerwick, we're going to be spending a few days, basically I think it's about 5 or 6 days, travelling up to Unst, where we're going to be staying, driving around exploring Shetlands with our friends, and then coming back down. Come back down a few days obviously afterwards, and from landing in Aberdeen we are then driving down to Edinburgh, staying the night in Edinburgh, and then from Edinburgh we're driving down to Nottingham, staying the last night in Nottingham before we drive home. So it's about a 1,400 mile round trip, I believe. Likely going to be, but that's without any exploring on Shetlands itself. So it's somewhat terrifying in the L322. One, because of the modifications I've made, and it's having a little bit of faith in my own work. The most part of that is having just fit the spacers, and I've not done a huge amount of miles with the spacers. Did notice a little bit of a wobble the other day in the steering, so I'm not quite sure. The balancing is okay, but it's probably just something to do with having those spacers on there. But I have got my jack with me, I've got all my tools with me. I've got literally just brought my Halford's whole pro set with me, and my torque wrench. So very worst case, I can jack the car up, take the spacers off, at least the spacers off the front, put it back on its wheels, and off we go again. That's kind of worst case. I'm really not looking to do that. So we are otherwise ready. We're not camping this time around or anything like that. We're staying in hotels, and I think which makes life a little bit easier. So certainly there's going to be 4 of us obviously here. Got my wife Joanne and my 2 boys Jean and Arlo, and we're going to be trying to squeeze into the L322, which I'll show you a little bit of a walk around in a second as to exactly how we've done things. But the boot itself, from the parcel shelf down, is full, and that's without any of our luggage yet. So there's a little bit of space for like jamming bits and pieces in, but essentially in the boot we've got the fridge, food, drinks, all that kind of stuff, walking boots, those kind of things. Underneath the boot we've still got a lot of the tools, all that kind of stuff, and on the roof we've got any of the safety gear, so any of the recovery gear if we do get stuck anywhere when we're up in the Shetlands or whatever we end up doing, because I know what we're like as a family, we're kind of a bit out there. So that is that. So we've got the top of the parcel shelf to shove in our luggage. That's for 4 people. We do have kind of like washing facilities when we get up to Shetland, so it's not like we have to take 10 days worth of clothes at all. So it should be okay. And we've I've not done the video yet, but we made a change to the solar. So the solar used to power the starter battery, which is great because the starter battery was always absolutely bang on. We never had any issues with that following installing that solar panel. The only issue is that having started the car, obviously we've got a smart alternator, and I did know this before I installed it. I just didn't think we'd have this problem because I didn't think the solar would work as well as it does. But as soon as the battery's up to scratch, up to the right voltage, the alternator pulls back, essentially, in layman's terms, and doesn't put so much load on the engine, doesn't put so much voltage into the battery because it just doesn't need it. So because of that, as soon as that happens, that voltage drops, the DC-DC charger in the back, which I installed, then doesn't get any charge, and therefore it doesn't charge the leisure battery. So this was an issue. The solar was working so well that the starter battery was literally running at 100% practically the whole time, and therefore it just wasn't charging in the boot at all. So I did a bit of a switcheroo, and I have done some filming on it. I haven't finished doing the actual video yet, so it might be a little while till I actually post it. But I've swapped out the solar controller that was in under the bonnet, the one that came with the solar panel, and I've switched it to a dual battery setup. So I've got, I can't remember what it's called now, dual racer, solar racer. I can't remember, that's in the other video, but I've got a different solar controller in the boot, and I ran 2 cables from the boot all the way through to the engine bay. So one of those cables goes to the starter battery positive, and the other one goes to the positive of the solar panel. It's both those wind their way back to the solar controller. So I've got solar going into the controller, and I've got a positive going to the starter battery. And then because it's a dual battery setup, there's also a cable going through to the leisure battery. So what this means now is actually the leisure battery is taking the brunt of the charge from the solar. And now that is because as soon as you put the fridge on, it does tend to draw that battery down. So we do need that extra power. And I've not been using the leisure battery much, hence why it's not really been a problem. I've not really noticed it. It's only the other day I noticed like 65% charge. It's like, oops. So we've switched it around. So we've got primary being charging the leisure battery, or the primary battery it's called in there, and the starter battery and the secondary battery takes like a trickle charge. It's about 1 amp. And as it happens, that's absolutely fine. So the solar is brilliant. I have to admit, even in England, that 100-watt Lensun solar panel, which I put on a few months back, is doing really, really well. We pull in, I mean, it's 100 watts max from that solar panel. We've never got anywhere close to that. I think on a really, really sunny day, I think we did about 60 watts or something like 65 watts, but we're in England, you know, I can imagine out Portugal, Spain, somewhere like that, you're gonna crank that up to sort of 80, 85 watts, maybe even max it out, I don't know. But the beauty is it's not a lot of ampage. So although I've put some pretty big sort of 10 gauge wires through to the back, kind of future proofing how I'm doing things, there's kind of like very, very little risk. So this means now that the leisure battery, or the primary battery, is getting a good charge all the time. We've had the battery plugged in for a while. What we're doing at the moment is that so we've had the fridge plugged in for a while. What we're doing at the moment, because we're going in, it's Saturday today, we're going on Monday. The fridge is now plugged into the mains to get it down to temperature, rather than sucking all the battery power to actually get it down to the temperature. And once it's down to temperature, I'll then switch it over to the battery just before we go, and then off we'll go. So there's already food and stuff in the fridge ready to go. The drinks are in the fridge. We're literally ready to go. Kind of pre-checked around the car. I did all the obvious things. So we checked all the tyres, which is a really not a particularly straightforward thing to do when it comes to this car. So standard tyre pressures for these cars are almost irrelevant really now, because I'm running the 275 5520s Cooper ATs. So because of that, it's kind of down to your own preference. They've got a max inflation, I think, of 50 psi, and I'm running fronts and backs up 40, because I'm not looking for sort of like terrain kind of 4x4. I think of the bloody word now. I can't think of off-roading kind of grip at the moment. We're looking for kind of motorway miles more than anything else, and I can always drop them down. But 40 seems to be running really nicely. I may put the backs up to like 42. It's now carrying quite a bit of weight with that kitchen and all of our gear and all that kind of stuff as well. So, but for the time being, 40 all round, and they look okay. I'll see how it affects mileage. Without anything in the car, I do about on a good trip about 20 miles to the gallon. I think with all the gear in the car and everyone in the car, it goes down to about 17. However, I'm going to be reasonably light-footed all the way up to Scotland, so 65 on the motorway. We should get good mileage, around the sort of 18, 19 miles per gallon. Should be fine. So check the tyres; they're all okay. I I talked up all the wheel bolts again. All the obvious things: windscreen wash, oil. Oil is great. That was only changed in January. We've checked coolant. It's good. Well, basically all the fluids are good. It runs really well, starts really well. Battery state of charge is good. It's kind of like there's only so much we can actually do to kind of like prep for this. Any other normal car, you got yourself into an old Volvo or something like that, you wouldn't even check these things, I don't think. But being this car and with all the issues that they do kind of have, it's put me on edge a little bit. I did have a suspension fault pop up the other day, and I think it was just because something to do with the ignition, which I know is going to kind of need some attention in the next couple of months, which I'll do when I get back from Shetlands. The car's going to get a bit of a strip down in after Shetlands as well, so we're going to start looking at the bits of the rust on the wheel arches and things like that. So I might do a bit of rewiring and rejig the kitchen as well. So yeah, we've got I think it's about 5-6 hours driving on Monday, about 4.5 Tuesday. It's a 12.5-hour ferry trip from Aberdeen up to Lerwick, and then it's another couple of ferries once we get to Lerwick to get to Unst. So it's a fair amount of driving in the car. It's reasonably comfortable, and it's one of the reasons why I'm pretty glad we went for a Range Rover rather than all the alternatives. We looked at potentially getting a Defender, all that kind of stuff. And as cool as they are, and no doubt I will end up having one at some point, I don't really fancy the idea of driving 1,400 miles in a Defender. I know people do it, but I quite like the luxuries, and this is a luxurious car to be in. We've got heated seats, ventilated seats, AC runs really cold, it's quiet. This is a double glazed version, so it's super quiet. Don't hear any road noise or anything like that at all. Stereo's good. It's perfect for doing the long distances. So fingers crossed. He runs well on the way up. We have got our gap tool plugged in all the time on a switch. So if anything pops up, I can check pretty much straight away and see what's going on. Keep a careful eye on, sort of close eye on any of the bits and pieces that might go wrong with the car. Other than that, we're ready to go. So fingers crossed, it all goes well. We're going to do a bit of filming on the way up, and while we're up in Shetlands as well, and a bit on the way down. But I'm not going to bore you with it because it's kind of like just our holiday. But I'll do some highlights, and if we do any off-roading as well, we'll film some of that too. But in the meantime, keep an eye and we'll let you know what else is going on. Okay, it's Sunday now. Yep, it's Sunday now. We are packed up, pretty much ready to go. All our clothes are now packed up, which take up a lot more space than you'd imagine. But the car is ready to go. We're doing a final trickle charge on the starter battery, as that was showing a little bit low this morning. Just taking the opportunity to get as much power into the car as possible. But let's show you sort of how it looks all packed up. Okie dokie. So we now have all of our clothes in 2 big bags, big duffel bags, trespass bags. That's at the back. This is a bag that won't be coming back with us, or the bag will, but the contents won't, because it's birthday presents. So it's just like shoes and things and tools. So that will be saving us a bit of space on the way back. Then we have all of our tech gear, so GoPro, iPad, chargers, all that kind of stuff. In the back there we've got dry foods, plates, crockery, all that kind of stuff as well, and drinks that aren't refrigerated. In here we've got all the most important things, which is coffee making stuff. We've got a little mini espresso machine, which is absolutely brilliant. Kettle, mugs, cups, coffee pods, we've got hot chocolate, all that kind of stuff. We've got a decent, I think it's 5 litres of water, I think, in there is absolutely fine. And here we've got washing up bowl and whatnot, kitchen roll. Underneath the bottom, so it's underneath this lot, are all the tools basically. So you can't see particularly well. That is in fact a toilet, just in case. I wasn't planning on bringing it on this journey, but It's more for the Portugal trip, the abroad trips. When I took it out, I thought to myself, somebody somewhere is just going to turn around and say, you mean you bought a toilet and you just didn't put it in the car? So I've put it in the car. And then the rest of it's just like tools and bits and pieces, chargers, starting stuff just in case anything goes wrong. So in the fridge itself, we've got, hang on, can't do this one-handed, not particularly easy. No, I can't do it one-handed, 1 second. So in here, we have the fridge. So the fridge is on and down to temperature. We've got loads of room for drinks and food, bread, everything nice and cold in there. So that is good to go as well. So we are set on food and storage. I did actually line this the other day. So we also have a kind of a chopping board, for like a food prep board. I lined it with just a bit of grey vinyl. It's a bin bag actually, doesn't it? I just realised that. Either way, it's just grey vinyl that I bought from B&Q. So it just doesn't get quite so wet and warm and so when even if we're like chopping something on it. But there is a mini chopping board actually in the lid of this Alpical fridge. So that's good too. So that is ready to be used as well. Okay. Down the side we have all of the seats. So we've got 4 seats, they're all stood up. We've got 1 tucked in the corner there. And we've got our solar controller and fire extinguisher. This side we've got walking boots, umbrellas, and this panel that just never stays in. But that is all in there okay, so just make sure that the fridge doesn't get knocked and turned off. That's why I'm going to change that switch when we get back. Inside, as you can see, there is nothing. So we have got space if we need to. Thanks Arlo, leaving a cocktail stick. We've got plenty of room to put bags on the floor in the middle. We can put that centre seat down. We could put the end seat, roll it right the way forward if we wanted to and use that space. But as it happens, I don't think we're going to need to. Joanne's got some bits and pieces just to go in the middle there, like makeup and stuff like that. Other than that, it's ready to go. Jumpers and hoodies and bits and pieces when we're driving along can be shoved in the top. But yeah, there's still a few cram spaces that we can sort of figure out en route. But these bags are actually really good. Because they're quite big, these duffel bags, even in the event of stopping quickly, it's not going to shoot forward through that gap, which is great. So that is that. Oh, and in all the doors, we have these little bags, emergency mini toilet. So you can pee in it. You can actually use it for being unwell in as well. Now, because we're doing a ferry trip, they will most definitely be coming with us in our day sacks, but they're great little bags. In the front, again, not a lot of stuff. We don't need to take too much stuff. I'm still not sure whether I'm going to take the iPad on this particular journey, because it's not really needed. Sat nav will be using my phone. We can get that fully charged, so I'll decide when we go to leave. We've got the gap tool permanently plugged in, just on a switch, and this cable runs through to the ABD under there, so we don't have to worry about kicking around, because the little flap hangs down and you end up kicking it, which is really annoying. All the switches are wired up. We got 1 switch wired up for the spotlights. The other switch is just vacant at the moment. It's not doing anything. And the mirror is working properly now, so I'm happy with that. Other than that, that is it. We've got 2 USB magnetic cables. So these plug into all of our devices, little magnet connectors. We've got those wired into the auxiliary power underneath the glove box. In the glove box, I don't think we've got anything really. No, just a few cables and chargers and whatnot, nothing really major. That is it. So we are pretty ready to go. So there's not a lot else that we need to do. I'm going to finish charging the car, but it's otherwise in good shape. I checked all the coolant, I checked all the screen wash, oil, everything else is all good. And now with the battery charged up. That's also great. I did also reroute the solar cable today. We're on little sticky pads back here, all this kind of stuff. But then I realised I'm going to feed it frontwards, zip tied it here and then ran it on the existing connectors on the top of it. I don't know why I didn't think about doing that. I think I was blinded by the fact that they came with these little sticky pads and just thought I had to use them. But that's a much neater kind of run, so that's fine. And when I get back, I'm going to tidy up all of this. It is safe, but it's just a lot of excess cable that's not needed, so I'll tidy it up when I get home. And I'm just leaving it charging for the time being. The piece I didn't film as well after being in here is if I can do this without letting everything come out. Yep, okay. Down there we have got the Huffer's toolkit and first aid kit as well, so they're strapped in behind the actual kitchen bit. So that is it. The roof box, which I didn't actually show you what's in it, but that's just got recovery gear in it in a minute. So my traction boards are in there. Probably not going to need those, but they're in there anyway, as are like straps, all that kind of stuff. So it's just going to stay in there. I've got measurements. Actually, it's quite a useful thing to do. Actually, something I did. I measured the car in all its different heights, and what I've done is I measured the car, its lowest setting and highest setting, and its normal with the roof box on, so I know basically what we're looking at. So on the ferry, I had to book a slot that was over 220, I think it is 220, because I was 2 centimeters over, and I could have taken the roof box off, could have had it in normal height, but I thought, you know what, just for the sake of it, I booked it over. It didn't cost me any more, but that is bloody useful. In low mode, you can't drive it. So because of the tyres on this, it will catch and it just drags. So I don't think I can drive it in low mode. So it's only useful for, I don't know, for loading, I suppose. But there we go. So that is ready to go. So we finished packing up. We've got one more night here and then we're off. So we're leaving about 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, off up to Blackpool. We'll fill up with fuel, see how it goes.